What's up everyone, it's me and welcome to my Whirlwind Barbarian guide for Season 9 Sins of the Oradrim. Now, in this season, Earthquake's got a massive nerf. So, you're probably expecting us to be playing, a proper Whirlwind build using Whirlwind to do its damage, right? Well, kind of. The pure Whirlwind build was decently strong to go up before already back in last season, but there was a build that was a bit stronger than it, even last season, and will be much better going into this season because it can benefit a lot more from the seasonal stuff. And that is actual Lucky Hit build.
Lady Luck is smiling.
Yeah, I'm not joking with you. What you're looking behind you is the Lucky Hit build with some gear I just was able to throw together on the live servers. And it's already performing more than the actual pure Whirlwind build that I actually had in the game. Like, in the live game, I could clear 80 with some difficulty, but it could comfortably clear 80 on the pure Whirlwind. This one is farming. This one is farming an 80. With non-optimized gear, by the way. The gear is not optimized there. I don't have any triple masterwork on the fire hits, right? On the Lucky Hit to fire. That's the main source of your damage. I'm not even fully masterworked on that. There's a lot of masterwork missing on that build, and it's already stronger. And again, with the seasonal stuff, it's going to be even more strong, alright? So like I was telling you about, this build on live could clear up to 85 quite comfortably. It might be able to push 90 on live, I'm not 100% sure. On the actual Season 9, it will likely be better, because I'll cover in a second why the seasonal stuff is so good for it, but it's more than like 2 times multiplier if things actually work. Alright, going into the build here, as I was talking about, our main damages are gonna come from this Lucky Hit fire damage proc. We're gonna have one here, we're gonna have another one here on the two-handed weapon, and another one on the one-handed. For the rest, we're going to be running, again, covering the uniques. First of all, Ugly Bastard, big damage buff from the fire damage, 60% multiplier, this is not quite yet updated, and of course, Wrath of Berserker cooldown and aggressive resistance are super great. Other thing, Rage of Argath. Since we're attacking so fast on this build to proc Lucky Hits, and by the way, Lucky Hits, the fire damage here, right? It double dips on attack speed. What happens is the attack speed increases the damage it does. The more attack speed you have on your stat sheet, the more damage the fire proc does. And you attack faster, so you proc it more often. I don't know if that's exactly intended or not, but it is what it is. But yeah, Lucky Hit, we're gonna be attacking Omega fast with bleed on our Whirlwind, so easy pickup for the reduced cooldowns. This basically takes care of all the cooldowns you need. You might even get away with not having some cooldowns on the rings, but for now I'm recommending it till I can be sure that it's not something you have to worry about. We're gonna on our gloves, of course, Fist of Fate, masterworking all that Lucky Hit chance. It's just gonna be great to proc it way more often. On our pants, T-Bolt. On any Ramalanis build, this is great. Just generic damage multiplier, great for us as well. Some damage reduction and all stat, of course. Masterwork index, max resource for the Ramalanis, of course. With Stacking Fury, Ramalanis is one of the best general multipliers we have access on Barb, and it works on this specific procs of Lucky Hit damage. Some procs don't work, it works on these ones, so those are the ones we're running with. For the Mythics, Grandfather, of course, another great general multiplier, and it has maximum resource, which just makes it that much better. Lastly, when it comes to the Mythics, of course, Ring of the Starless. Again, a staple for any Whirlwind build. It doesn't matter what Whirlwind build you're playing, you run Ring of the Starless no matter what. Great stats, of course, critical strike chance, attack speed, and Lucky Hit. Core skills we don't quite use here, but hey, it's one more damage to the build. Not 1%, just 1 more damage, alright? But hey, it is what it is. When it comes to the legendaries, however, we're gonna be running with some attack speed resists on our ring. You're just gonna need to run resists on the ring and on the boots. It is what it is. You do need this attack speed. We are going for the max attack speed breakpoint on this build. It's, again, the more we attack, the more attack speed we have, we double dip on the procs, which is just insane. One thing I do want to point out here, we're going to be running the two general aspects here for damage. We're going to be running the Dust Devil on the ring and Vehement on the mace. We don't really care which one is we need each position, right? Just run one of them, you're going to be good. When it comes to the amulet, Strength, Counter-Offensive, and Pit Fighter, this is just a staple. If you can get Pit Fighter, Slaying Strike, or even Max Fury will be fine. Max Resource, right? Tempers, of course, Wrath Berserker, cooldown and damage while Wrath Berserker is active. Same on the ring. When it comes to the weapons, let's start with the two-handed. You do want that lucky hit chance to be the highest you can get. I'm fairly certain it doesn't matter if it's fire or not, because you're going to be converting it thanks to the Ugly Bastard. But if you can get fire, it looks better, I suppose. But it's probably not important. Wrath of Berserker as well, and you're going to be masterworking that lucky hit damage as much as you can. And of course, the aspect Earthquakes. It's just a great generic multiplier. It is what it is. You're going to be running this on every single bar build. The only reason you don't run it is if you hate Earthquakes. It's just 120 damage to anything on your build. It's just too strong. When it comes to the one-handed mace, same stats as the two-handed. Getting that lucky hit, super masterworked as much as you can, is going to increase your damage exponentially. When it comes to the boots, simple as always. You're going to be running movement speed, strength, and resist to all elements. When it comes to the tempers, you can run movement speed. Concussion is not necessary. You can run Thorn 0 and save 1 point on the tree. It's up to you, realistically. When it comes to our runes that we're running here, of course, we're going to be running the back tech. This is just to proc attack every now and again, so you can take advantage of the 120 damage bonus, of course. And the other one is going to be Igni Tool. This just gives you an insane amount of damage. Not insane, but 15 damage, right? And a lot of vulnerable uptime, which you probably don't need, considering you do have vulnerable on the Fists of Fate, right? Fists of Fate just a great unique overall for Barbarians. So it is what it is. Now, when you go to Ancestral here, as you can see, we're going to be, of course, removing the Mythics. What you're going to do is you're going to run Bolt Shifting on your amulet. You're going to get some resists here as well, because why not? And at that point, you might be able to drop some resists and get the Warcry here before you actually go into the Mythic one. But to stay safe, get those resists. The Warcry ranks are not realistically going to give you that much damage, especially when it's the Ancestral setup. But yeah, we're going to be running the Bolt Shifting. The stats are mostly the same. And we're going to be getting the attack speed from, as you can see here, from the Catalyst itself. I'll cover it in a second. But one thing that you can notice here, on the Mythic setup, I'm not running one of the new jewels. Simply because if you do run it, either you have the build so far optimized that you don't need that extra resists, or you're likely gonna have to run resists on some other gear, and it's just not optimal. None of the other jewels, the Auratic jewels, give you much, so I just thought best to actually just run and get more resists for your trouble. On the Ancestral, right, on the two-handed weapon, we're gonna be moving Accelerating here, and putting Vocalized Empowerment on the amulet. This build is super resource angry. You really have to run this before you get the Starless, just so you never get into any trouble that you just run out of resource, alright? You're gonna move the Accelerating here. This is gonna give you even more attack speed, so you can cover for the fact that you don't have attack speed rolls on your ring, nor the Starless, right? The rest is the same. When it comes to the starter, you just get some defensive on the rest of the armor. And when it comes to the weapon you're going to be using, you're gonna be going on to the polearm because it's just more damage. Everything else on the weapons, right, you're gonna be rolling as much lucky hit as you can. In this setup, since you don't have the Ugly Bastard, I would recommend you going for the physical ones, but it's not 100% necessary. You can just go for whichever one. Since you're running damage to close, you can either run damage to close or damage to berserking, because they are just generic, right? Even though they're a bit harder to get than, for example, fire or physical damage, these ones are just generic, which means it's much easier for you to get that max roll on the lucky hit damage, right? When it comes to the skills, we're gonna be running, of course, all the Shout, Wrath of the Berserker, which, fun fact, right now, it will no longer cancel your Whirlwind, which is great for us, and Rupture to proc Overpower for the Warpath and some other shenanigans, and for the 40% attack speed, which is great. Not only that, on the AoE situations, it really helps with constantly reducing cooldowns and a bit of damage, because it has good lucky hit as well. Alright, when it comes to the seasonal power, the reason I told you it's quite strong, and there's stuff that we're gonna have to actually test to see how better it can become when the game is actually live. It's because your catalyst skills actually have lucky hit. And if you actually run the new siphoning gizmo, which is not currently updated here, it doubles the lucky hit chance of your catalyst. Currently, the catalyst actually has Whirlwind has 55% chance to lucky hit. The Astral Pillar goes up to 66%. I'm not 100% sure if for Astral Pillar is gonna be the way, especially for this build, since we mostly care about the lucky hit stuff. But I'm gonna be testing out live, and I'll do an update to the guide if need be, right? As I covered, catalyst skill, of course, gonna be Astral Pillar, at least for now. Another thing that we are 100% confident on, it's gonna be the Infusion. Infusion is just the fire one. Our damage is gonna be mostly fire, so if we have some stragglers from the physical damage on the Paragon, everything is gonna be converted into fire. Not only that, the Fire Catalyst, as you can see here, it destroys structures, which means wallers be freaking on. Yeah, you no longer will have to worry about them. Bless. Anyway, deactivate Chilling Wind, whatever, right? But yeah, when it comes to the actual Arcana we're gonna be running, as I covered earlier, Gizmo for the lucky hit increase, which is not updated yet. You gotta give a break to our backend guys. There was a bunch of stuff that was updated last second. They are just rushing. They're in the basement, constantly just typing away. The other one, of course, Fractured Core. This is a staple on almost every build this season. It just disables those pesky damage resistance guys, right? By the way, they will still lag your computer, but at least you can do damage to the other guys, right? As long as you group them up, which should be easy, especially with Whirlwind and Wrath of the Berserker, right? Pulling everything in, it should be extremely easy. So, it's basically just completely disable that affix. Hopefully, they just remove it from the game. Anyway, Bloody Charm, another staple for most builds. Yes, it does take away a bit from the fact that we do increase damage to enemies that are low HP, below 35%, but it's the only kind of quote-unquote free damage we can get from the Arcana, so it is what it is. When it comes to optional Arcanas that you have on this build, Gleaming Conduit if you want a bit of increased size, if you feel like it. You also have Pontat Alloy to get rid of barriers if they really annoy you in pit pushing. And Shifting Powder just for increased movement speed. This is gonna be great leveling. Maybe speed farming, I don't think you actually need it though. When it comes to the aura jewels, the ones you're gonna be using mostly are gonna be Idle from Below. This not only gives you great strength and maximum life, but it actually spawns Jewel Gardens, which are supposed to be a bad thing, but they're actually good for you because they give you pit progression. So yeah. The other one, Scornful Light, this is just 20% more elemental damage, which our damage is. You do take 10% more damage, but it should not be the end of the world. The other one that I use on some versions of the build, we'll see if it ends up making it into the end game or not. I don't think it does. Myriad Stone. This just... okay, the wrong one. Myriad Stone. This just increases the attack speed that you have by 30% whenever you use an ultimate skill, which you're gonna be at 100% uptime or Absolute Berserker, right? It's just great. Alright, briefly covering our skills and gameplay for this build. You're gonna be taking 2 points into Launching Strike. That's simply because you have to spend points there, we don't really use it. Whirlwind is always gonna be our main skill. It's gonna be applied in Bleed, proccing Reja multiple times. And it's gonna be proccing all our Lucky Hits effects, which is gonna be most, if not all, our damage. Rounding Cry, therefore Unstoppable and Fortify, additional Fury Generation, quite great. War Cry, there mostly for the damage multiplier, although the Berserking is appreciated. Challenging Shout, big tanky boy, right? You just proc it, 40% damage reduction, 20% life, really great. Rupture, 40% attack speed, right? With Warrior Rupture, and it also procs Overpower to proc stuff like, you know, Warpath and some other stuff. Wrath of Berserker Lifesteal, it got a big upgrade again in this last announcement patch, right? It no longer stops the channeling of Whirlwind, which is cool, although we're not going to be using that too much on this build. And also it's going to be 100% uptime for Berserking and Unstoppable, which is quite insane for almost every Barbarian build. Not only that, it's also a great grouping tool, especially since we have Rupture on the build. We're going to be constantly resetting cooldowns, so if you need to group, just Rupture, Wrath of Berserker, Rupture, Wrath of Berserker, and you're going to be great. When it comes to the passives, of course, Unconstrained, you're going to be taking some ranks into Duelist. This is just to fix your breakpoint. If you want the attack speed breakpoints for Whirlwind, you can go down here to the FAQ and mechanics, and you're going to have a breakdown of all the attack speed breakpoints that you might want to hit. Wall Up, really nice since you're going to be using a 100 mace together with Rama. The Pit Fighter, of course, No Mercy, and Slaying Strike. No Mercy, you might get away with taking some points away, depending on the crit chance you do have, by the way. And of course, you know, just a couple of points into counter-offensive for even more damage. All the points into the Shout, you do take 2 points away from Gateriel because you're kind of slacking on some of the stats on your gear. Later on, you'll get full points there. And of course, Aggressive Resistance for the survivability. We're going to be running Martial Vigor and Imposing Presence again for tankiness, and Outburst to proc one of our glyphs that requires you to have Thorns. You might get away again with having this on the boots instead of putting 1 point here, up to you. Warpath, like I told you before, another damage multiplier. And Tempered Fury, this is a 2.5 times multiplier per Fury, per point you put in here, thanks to Ramaladness. Now, time to finally cover the Paragon and the glyphs you're going to be running on this build. Let's actually go to a more realistic version of the build, 260 Paragon. This will be something that most people will be able to achieve a couple of weeks into the season. So, starting off, Ambidextrous. This is a great glyph for any build that uses Ramaladness together with another 100 weapon. It's just 8% multiplier and then 10% down below, with a bunch of buffs to the additives in the range and even dexterity to get some additional crit. On the Warbringer board, we're gonna be running Wrath. This is just the best additive we have when it comes to glyphs, and it also gives you 14.2 multiplier once you actually, you know, get the dexterity requirements, and we're gonna be running it on the board that has the most dexterity nodes in the Barbarian Paragon. The other glyph we're gonna be running, of course, Challenger. This is a best in slot glyph for every single build, I believe. 10% increased damage and then 10%, 14.2 again. Right, it's just great. Not only that, it does buff the normal nodes, so if you do need to, you know, get some more crit, you just take a couple of dexterity. You can even fix element resists by taking some points into, for example, intelligence here. And of course, strength if you just want raw damage. When it comes to the glyph, Martial might not be 100% necessary here, but it just feels great to play with. I might swap it when it comes to the pit pushing build later on. But for now, it's just great. It buffs the magic nodes around for more additive damage as well, and reduces your cooldowns if need be, which you probably won't need, but hey, it feels good to play with, and it's generally a good glyph regardless, even without that passive. Lastly, we're going to be running Revenge. This is the reason we want some Thorns in the build, even if minimal. It's just to proc this. Not only that, the Revenge also buffs this node here, Iron Strength, to maximize our Max Fury for the build, so Ramaladness can pop off, right? The harder you do put this on is kind of important early on until you start getting things like, for example, the Grandfather, which will just fix all your all stat requirements, but until then, try to follow the order. It's somewhat important. When it comes to our legendary Paragon nodes, we're going to be running, first of all, Warbringer. This is the last one you do pick on the build if you go behind here, right? You can see I leave it for last. The reason is you don't quite need it. The Rolling Cry should be more than enough to give you 45 a day. At some point, it's basically free to take, so why the hell not? You're also going to be running, of course, Decimator. You don't really take advantage of the overpower, sadly, since they changed that. But still 20% damage against the vulnerable enemy. The other one, of course, Blood Rage. You just take this on every Barbarian build. Your Berserk can have 45% increased damage. Good, right? No questions asked. And last one, Weapon Master. This just gives you 30% increased damage to injured and healthy enemies. Again, we lose out a bit on it thanks to the execution that we're going to be running, but it's still quite great. Still a great damage multiplier. And you don't have to worry about weapon swapping. Weapon swapping, the only thing related to weapon swapping here is the maximum fury it gives you, right? The 8% there. The rest, it has a dot, and the rest just works whatever the build you're running, even if you don't have any single weapon swap on your build. When it comes to stats priorities and consumables that you're going to be running on this build, there's a couple of things you really need to look out for. First, your attack speed. It's something I probably do need to add that here. It's something that's quite important for you to look out on the build. Same for the critical strike chance, but most importantly, you really want to try and at least get 2 masterwork crits on all your lucky hit damage sources. Ideally, you want 3, but at least 2 will make the build feel much better. When it comes to the consumables we're going to be running here, of course, Elixir of Advantage. This gives you the last attack speed you need and additional lucky hit for you. Soothing Spices just to fix all the resists and armor. This is really important, especially this season, because you're going to be struggling for maximum resists, alright? Rhythm Buzz just for the life, and lastly Spire Morning for the all stat. Everything else here, you can see what I want you to prioritize on the item. Just follow the priorities here and you'll be great. This not only gives you the priorities on the stats you have on the unique, it also gives you the priorities for the masterworks, right? As you can see here, I have 3 arrows here on the chance for fire damage to deal fire damage, right? It's because this is omega important, right? And for example, the Reservoir God, I have 2 on the critical strike chance. It's great to get, it will give you a lot of damage, but it's not as important as this one, right? This one is omega important to get. Same, for example, on the lucky chance on Fist of Fate, omega important for it to get, even over the unique effect, right? It's just super important for this build specifically. Alright, the often forgotten heroes for us, especially this season, the Mercenaries. Right here is gonna be our boy this season, alright? Because 15% resist is gonna go a long way, believe me. We're gonna be struggling really hard. Not only that, my guy also gives you a great damage bonus, almost as good as Subos. And on top of all of that, it also sometimes gives you a shield, protects you. It's really great defensively. The other round we're going to be running is Aldequin. We're going to be proccing Fields of Language every now and again. You just put it together with either Rust Berserker or Whirlwind, and you should proc it constantly, right? For that 40% damage reduction. Or 20%, sorry. Alright, and of course, we also have the build variants for this build. When it comes to speed farming, nothing much changes on the build. The big change is gonna be, first of all, Fury on kill on your two-handed mace. This is just so if you're killing enemies too fast, you don't just run out the Fury right on the build. If you need an initial one, you can get it on the ring instead of strength, for example. You shouldn't need to though. And of course, you're gonna be running Ignija. This just gives you the teleportability from Sork, and just make sure you can run around the sanctuary at Mach 10 speeds. When it comes to the pit pushing one, not a lot of stuff changes here. The big thing is that I expect you to have a GA resist to all elements on your ring and 3 out of 3 critical masterworks on it, because once you get that, you can actually drop the resists you have on the boots and run Warcry rank 0, which will increase your damage by a good amount, especially on pit pushing. Every bit of damage helps. I have everything that I talked about down here as well. Getting, if you need to fix some resist, getting some J all stats on the Grandfather or Masterworking, the all stats might help you out a bit. And I also swapped some of the pathing just to make sure we got every single intelligence node we could get. If it was between dexterity or intelligence, I just took intelligence to make sure you are able to actually meet those breakpoints for the resist, right? Everything else here, when it comes to the starter, you have a full breakdown here of the build, right? Everything you need, it's down here. Same for the Ancestral, a massive breakdown, not as big, it didn't need it. And Mythic, a small breakdown, not a lot to talk about. I do have a pure Whirlwind Virgin here. If you really don't want to play with Lucky Hit, I have a build here for you. It does have some Paragon. I don't go too into depth here, simply because it's just not that great. Again, Lucky Hit will be stronger, that's why that's the focus of this build. Whenever I make the Whirlwind build, I'll make it the stronger I can give you guys, and this is just the stronger one this season, considering Earthquakes were nerfed. I could potentially add an Earthquake build, an Earthquake variation. If you're someone that actually enjoyed it, let me know. If you have a lot of people telling me they do enjoy it, I'll make sure to add a variation here for you guys. Alright everyone, that's gonna be it for this video guide. If you have some questions, make sure to either drop them below, or if you see I'm live, just run the stream and ask them live, because that way I'll be able to answer them in real time. If you leave a comment, I might take a couple of hours, especially in the beginning of the season, since I'm going to be playing it for like 12 plus hours, but I'll always be online on the stream, so just drop by and ask the questions there. If you do have questions about Lucky Hit, I do understand that this is not something that we are used to do on Barbs. Make sure to ask. You can also check some of the Ava's Lucky Hit resources that we have here. If you go here, I believe, where is it? It's Lucky Hit Mechanics here. You can go check it out. Ava has a full breakdown on it if you do want to understand more. But I don't think we need it for this build. Just follow the build guide and you'll be good. But yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know how you feel about messing with Lady Luck this season. Besides all the luck you have to have for the Masterworks, am I right? But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the build guide. I really expect this build to potentially pop off, depending on some of the interactions we have on the seasonal stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time, and make sure to, leave a cheeky like and maybe sub if you want some more Diablo 4 content in the future, and maybe other RPGs as well. But yeah, see you next time, ideally on my stream. Bye bye guys.